Okay, we're good.
Okay.
Okay, well, we'll call to order the July 6, 2020 College Place Economic Development, Tourism and Event Commission meeting to order. We'll move on to approval of the agenda.
Do we want to do the roll call real quick first? I can call names.
Yeah, go ahead.
Bill Clemens,
Present.
Kelly Lean,
Present.
Kyle Tarbett,
Present.
Mike Rizzatello, City Administrator,
Yeah, here.
Brian Carlton, Finance Director.
He's here. He just doesn't have like the AV hooked up yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then myself, Deputy City Clerk, and Jeff Lambert is excused. And then Doug Case and Jenny Fuchs are not on the call at this time. So go for it.
We'll go ahead and move on to approval of the consent agenda. Or do you want to do it separately?
To do it the way that you just said, the consent agenda. Well,
I'd entertain a motion for approval.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
I second.
Okay, I got a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Consent agenda approved. We'll move on to the reports. Discussion of protocol for virtual meeting. Is that you, Mike?
Carolyn, do you want to go over any of that with Zoom?
so this is basically just something to help guide the members who are working in the meeting with us, to let you know how to do the raise hand button so the chair can call when you have your hand raised. It just helps the meeting move a little bit better and people aren't talking over each other. So it'll probably be on the agenda every time as just a normal thing there for everybody, just for reference.
All right. Anybody have any questions? Okay. We'll move on to Safe Start reopening.
Okay. Thank you. I'll take that one. So as far as Safe Start reopening, I just want to reiterate essentially what phase we're in and what it's basically going to look like going forward. So right now we are in the phase 2, and that's where essentially the retail could open, although at limited capacity. Same with the hair and the barber salons and things like that. About a week and a half ago, the county did turn in an application into the state for like a faux phase 2.5 almost, where instead of allowing like capacity for events up to like 50 people, it was like 25, and it would have allowed government buildings and our library to reopen and stuff like that. However, in that time frame, unfortunately, our 2-week anniversary in which you can move from one phase to the other, it just ended up being bad time, and we're basically, by the time our application was turned in, one of the benchmarks is that you don't have like 15 cases for our population, 15 new cases in like a 2-week time period. And then by the time our 2-week anniversary came where we turned it in, we were at 16. And unfortunately, as the days went by, like it's a rolling average. So if our case count would have been reduced, we would have been okay. But unfortunately, as really what you're seeing in a lot of the states all over the place, just as people have cabin fever and things are opening back up, our case count never got down to where it achieved that 15 new case criteria. So as of right now, we're basically stuck in phase 2. The state has that application, and we basically met the criteria with the exception of that case count, and then also percentage of the cases coming in like positive, where I believe they wanted to see like 2%, and it was like 3%. So as of right now, we're still in the phase 2. The governor announced a freeze of moving counties to new phases for the next 2 weeks or so. So everyone's basically at the phase that they're at. The one good piece of news where I do think it did have some impact on our county is that Benton, Franklin, and Yakima County, they were recently approved to go to like a phase 1.5, which basically allowed their establishments to reopen, although at a much more limited capacity than like out here, because finally a State Department of Health realized that keeping those 3 counties closed down really wasn't helping, because the residents were only coming here, Pendleton, Hermiston, Ellensburg, pretty much everywhere else to do their shopping. So it was basically spreading it. So they've moved to 1.5. So I'm hopeful that with that happening, we could start to see some stabilization of numbers. I will let you know, though, that, I mean, looking at the recent case count, we do have, just looking at the website here, about 52 active cases in isolation county-wide, and the numbers have started to tick up locally. So College Place has around 30 cases. So that's just something to be cognizant about, that is happening. Most of the cases, when you look at them, are actually in city of Walla Walla proper, but the deviation in the case amounts aren't like really what you would think they would be, where there are some numbers in the elderly population, but the lion's share of the numbers is actually in the 20 to 39 age group and the 40 to 59 age group. So it's something to be aware of. What we are doing to help out is we did receive some emergency CARES COVID money from the state. It's passed through federal money. And we've used that to purchase some PPE. So a couple weeks ago, we did a drive-through event where businesses could pick up hand sanitizer. And tomorrow we're going to do a follow-up. So we ordered about another 30 cases of hand sanitizer. And then we have 2 significant mask shipments. County Emergency Management gave us a box that has a couple thousand masks in them. And then we also have the delivery of masks that are more permanent ones. Those ones from Emergency Management are like one-time use. But we have another shipment of about 1,000 of them that we did with the City of Walla Walla. And it has like the City of College Place logo on it. And they're knit masks, so they're reusable, and then it says like hashtag keep W2 well in both English and Spanish. So the plan, because we want to help out both the business and the low-income community, is that we will have a drive-through event. It's been advertised on social media and the reader board and on our website, and it'll be tomorrow from noon to 1 p.m. at City Hall. So if folks need any of that material, just swing by. We'll have a table out in the parking lot again. I know Kyle will be helping me, and then fire department will be helping to get out the material, and then we'll go from there. But that's what we're trying to do to make sure everyone has the supplies they need to stay open and stay well. Couple other things. We recently passed a continuation of our emergency disaster declaration. The original one was only for 90 days, and this one basically expires in which whenever the Safe Start plan expires, pretty much. So this allows us to get into contracts quickly. It basically allows us to make special personnel rules, and then also have meetings like online, like we're doing right now, and then to get federal assistance, and then also just as we deem fit to work with the business community if they aren't really, if things are happening that aren't in the best interest of everyone, like price gouging, for example, or things like that. So that's pretty much what the emergency declaration is. It just allows us to get grant money and things faster and get contracts quicker. Because unfortunately, while this is going on, we've had a couple of things hit the fan at the same time. So one of our drinking water wells, not the one good one, but the one we were half using, the motor stopped working, where we had to do emergency electrical work, and that was quite a bit of money. And then in addition to that, because a lot of people are home, apparently a bunch of folks were using disposable wipes and flushing them down the toilet. Because there was a giant wad of them that basically got stuck at the wastewater treatment plant and actually broke a 4-inch stainless steel auger and completely broke down the treatment plant. So we had to do an emergency contract of about $40,000 to fix the auger because it just had like pounds of disposable wipes stuck on it, and it broke our entire treatment plant. So we got back up and running, but that just goes to show you when it rains it pours around here, because we had the COVID situation and the floods, and then we had a well fail, and then in addition our auger break at the wastewater treatment plant. So that all costs money, and it's fascinating, but at least luckily it sounds like we're able to use that state pass-through money to cover that. So it shouldn't hit everyone as bad as it would have otherwise. The other thing I want to answer as well is that until we get to phase 3, we cannot have the lobby of City Hall or any of the city facilities open to the public. That was something that was solidified in the phase 3 guidance. If they would ever approve our phase 2.9 application we applied for, that would allow that. But until that time, the city facilities are still closed to the public, although we are answering inquiries by phone and email. And then also the other hot topic is the library, since we're annexed into a district and people are, paying property taxes into the rural library district now. They are doing book pickup now, but the actual libraries, them being open for customers, that is not happening until we get approved for that phase 2.9 application. And that has a couple of impacts on us, because while we're doing the mask and hand sanitizer distribution here tomorrow, the original plan was that whenever we would go to that 2.9, if the library was open, we would move the distribution down there, since, more folks tend to patronize the library. It's right by Walmart. There's a lot heavier customer traffic. So whenever we do get approved to go to that phase 2.9 with that application the state is sitting on, we will then move the distribution of the critical PPE from City Hall down to rural library district, because Rhonda Gould agreed to essentially act as that conduit for us, since they would have longer hours than we do, because we're closed on the weekends and they'll be open. So it makes sense that that would be the centralized distribution point. But as of right now, we're at a wait and see type thing, because they're still closed until we can ever get to 2.9. So yeah, that gives you a little flavor of what's going on with that whole Safe Start plan and just our case numbers. Is there any general questions or comments on this 3.02 agenda?
Any questions for Mike?
No.
I guess not. I guess we'll move on to 3.03, business aid COVID-19.
Okay, so as you all know, we've been scrambling to try to get some semblance of money as, fiscal assistance out to businesses that need it. I've been happy to report that basically the money that the city was getting out the door, we moved quickly. The ironic thing about this entire thing, though, is that the state, if you recall, for that Work in Washington grant dollars, they made this whole big to-do around St. Patrick's Day of, oh, turn in your application and we'll do this quick turnaround and we'll get money out the door. And the sad part is that didn't really happen in the timely manner in which they told us to tell the community. So, I mean, it's a hot topic of discussion with city managers, because it basically made all of us look like jerks, because we were telling everyone to go put in the grant applications, and then the state didn't deliver until almost 2 months after the fact. The money did get out the door, some semblance of it. So you'll see in the first tranche, that WWSBEG grant, that basically there were several businesses across the valley that got in there. I'm happy to report Rogers Bakery was one of them. So luckily they were helped, and then there's about 18 other businesses across the valley that were helped with that first tranche. So that was what occurred with that money. What we also did right out of the get-go was that the city of Walla Walla created what's called a Small Business Relief Fund that has two components. One was a low-interest loan program from Craft 3, and then the other one was a grant program through Mercy Corps Northwest. So in that case, there essentially were two tranches of funding with that. So if you go in the press release document that was attached, that was some redirected CDBG money. And that actually helped cover some smaller businesses that were just getting going, like in College Place. So like Shell's got to have a ride with Jay. Some smaller micro enterprise businesses were helped with that money. And then once we actually had a signed contract with the Department of Commerce for the COVID bailout money, we actually did another contract with City of Walla Walla to help additional businesses out the door to get some money. So if you go to the Walla Walla Small Business Relief Fund supplemental list document, you'll see the additional businesses were assisted. So Brown Salon, Juan Segovia Plumbing, Nine Angel Nails, which is the nail salon over in Meadowbrook Plaza, and then Spinoza Enterprises, which is Fresh Lime and United Country Real Estate. going to happen in addition to that is that the county ended up with significant COVID bailout funds from the state, much more than we received. So that list of businesses that put in for work in Washington, they're actually going to give a sizable amount of the money they received to the port and work down that list to hopefully help additional businesses out. Because keep in mind, with that work in Washington list, the state only initially helped about 18 businesses, and there were over 300 businesses that put in for those funds. So I know the county will be helping in that regard, and then I'm also on this Association of Washington Cities Legislative Committee, and the state has said that they're going to be giving more money to help with businesses, but they're probably going to give it out directly at the port, because it's pretty much like a known thing at this point that they messed up getting the work in Washington money out the door the last time. And they had a lot of city managers, myself included, yelling at them on like a daily basis to get the money out the door. So they don't really want to face that again. So they'll be working with the local port districts to get additional money out the door. That is what I'm expecting. So really, in summary, that original state grant program, they did the call for a project, but it took them over 60 days to get the money out the door. And then with the program that we all worked on with the chamber and with the city of Walla Walla, we basically conceived the program, did the call for projects, and then got the money out the door in less than 30 days. So, I mean, it shows you we're way more nimbler than the state. So hopefully the state works with the port and has learned their lessons, so we don't have to deal with that again, because that was not fun. So that is a little summary of just where we're at with the business aid. Is there any further questions or comments on that item?
Yeah, Mike, this is Bill. I had a question. I know some of that state money had restrictions where they had to be in business for a year before they would qualify for any help. Was there any money that came available for some of the businesses who were just starting up?
That was basically dependent on the later phases of money. So for instance, when I worked with the county to get some of their CDBG money to the city of Walla Walla Relief Fund, they still had that year requirement, but then later when the city gave some of our COVID relief money to the city of Walla Walla, that money didn't have the restrictions. So that actually helped some of the younger businesses. So locally, we were able to get around that. From a state perspective, not so much. I've told Lisa Brown with the state that if they do give more money, which it sounds like they are, that hopefully they won't be as many strings attached to it, such as that year requirement, because they should really be helping everyone at this juncture. So.
And Bill, this is Kyle. I love that question because I was in on multiple committees, I guess you could say, that reviewed the federal, the state, and the local assistance that was going to businesses and employers. And all of the federal and state have very strict requirements that they had to have been in business for at least a year. Some of the programs had 2 years. Some of them required you to have at least one employee, but no more than 10 employees. And it was just so restrictive that a lot of our very needy businesses were excluded, especially people who were new or very small, sole proprietors. And so with that local fund, working together with the city of College Place and the city of Walla Walla, we advocated to make sure that it was more open and available to people who had been excluded from all of the other types of assistance that were out there. So that's a huge success story. A lot of those folks were not eligible for anything else. And it was through our local municipalities that we were able to get it done.
And
Great.
how we got the money out the door is a little interesting too, because earlier state money, I would say, covered the more mature businesses, and when we did the relief fund, that helped some of the younger businesses. But then at least what I found locally here in College Place was that there was like this weird like middle sector of businesses that were like around for a little bit, but weren't like young enough to get covered by the initial round of the relief fund money, but yet they weren't old enough to get covered by the state money. So with that money that we carved out like about a week and a half ago from the city set aside of the COVID emergency money, we were luckily able to get that sweet spot of the like mid-growth businesses that weren't helped yet. So.
Great. Any other questions for Mike or Kyle? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move on to economic impacts. Is that you again, Mike?
Yeah. So I'm just sharing this with you all because, as I said last month, I found out I was appointed to the Association of Washington Cities Legislative Priorities Committee, and this is very much like a moving target here because and recently I heard they may not go to a special session this year, even though last week they said they were. I'm actually very nervous if they don't, because all that's going to cause is for them to basically punt making budget decisions the next year, and it's actually going to make the hole a lot deeper. So to put it in perspective from a state standpoint, they went into this biennium with $1 billion surplus. And with everything that's transpired right now with COVID, they went from $1 billion surplus to where now they have a $6 billion hole. So it went from being 1 million ahead, and now they have a $6 billion hole. And the thing is, when you look at what they can control and things like that, I have a deep concern that instead of having deeper discussions about everything, they're going to do what they did the last go around, last recession, which was they basically took all of the money that like helped cities, so like the city county relief funds and the state grant funds like for roads and so forth and infrastructure, and they basically pocketed it for like years, and then they made the cities look like the bad guy. So I do have some concerns that that's going to occur again. But you'll see the statement of policy from Association of Washington Cities. It's really one of trying to ensure that we remain solvent and temporarily that some of the like fiscal pieces are a little more flexible as we get through this period of uncertainty. And then really trying to double down and make sure that the state actually considers economic development because, as I've said many other meetings of this body, relative to other states, this state does not really help that much in that regard. They leave it to cities, and it doesn't really make us as competitive. So as far as that Legislative Affairs Committee, we are still meeting because they have not made a call yet for sure if that special session will be canceled or not, but it's a moving target. I think the thing we're going to have to be prepared for, though, is that I think coming back from this is going to be like a slow process because, as you can see, just with the delays and moving to the phases, the whole COVID thing is a moving target. It isn't like we're able to go from one phase to the next every 2 weeks because now the COVID cases are going up again. So that's deferring some things reopening, and then as such, that's deferring, sales tax collection and things like that. So we will have to watch that. If you go to the last document, the agenda item detail, you'll see essentially what the county unemployment rates for May were. Unfortunately, relative to how we were earlier in the year, this has put us, I would say, in recessionary percentages, because we were in like the 2 and 3% in certain areas of the state earlier this year. As you can see, there's counties in the Puget Sound area that are at 16% and 14%. Luckily, we aren't that bad. Tri-Cities is in like the 12% area because they've been stuck at the phase 1 for a while. Walla Walla County, we're at the 10.8%, which is better than many areas of the state, but we're still like behind Whitman County, for instance, and Soton County, although that's because they've been able to move through the phases quicker. So I think we'll hold our own. The thing I get a little concerned about is that there are large percentages of our local economy that are dependent on tourism, and that's going to cause a big hole. So I think from a regional level, that is a threat and a concern. I am happy to report to this board, though, that from at least level, City of College Place is holding its own, luckily. So because we made the call to defer non-essential projects, and we held a couple of positions vacant just to try to ride out the storm and see how things are. We are liquid right now. And actually, as of right now, we do not have a budget deficit. So we are, believe it or not, about like roughly 500,000 in the black, which is pretty, I mean, it's very good considering the situation we're in right now. So we probably will restart some of the deferred capital projects and hire probably one of the positions just because it's required by the state for our stormwater utility. So, I mean, it's going to require constant monitoring, and it's a moving target. But at least as of right now, the city is holding its own, which is a good thing. So economically, that's my report on that side. Is there any questions or comments?
Okay. Not hearing any. We'll move on to Farmers Market status update. Is that you, Lisa, or is that Mike?
I'll turn that over to Carolyn since she's the project manager on that. So, Carolyn, if you could update the commission and all the happenings at the market.
So when we started the College Place Farmers Market, the first day was May 28th, and we were still in phase 1. And so we opened it with essential vendors only. There were sanitation vendors, and then food vendors, and then people like produce. And so when we were able to go to phase 2 for the county, we brought in the artisans and handcrafters as well. And that actually helped out quite a bit. There's a couple attachments. I'll just go ahead and go through those. This is gross revenue for all of the vendors. And I know, well, you can probably see it on your own computer, but the market season percentage, we just break this out because we need to make sure that we're meeting the percentage benchmark since we have SNAP and SNAP Market Match. SNAP is a new program this year. It was not in the farmers market last year. We applied for it, which is Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program. And we were granted the ability to do it. And so people can come and get SNAP Market tokens. And then SNAP Market Match is put on by the state of Washington, and it's an equal match for the number of tokens that the customer brings to the market, and they get the tokens, and then they get an equal market match that they can spend at any farmers market in Washington. We've had anywhere from 13 to 19 vendors. We've had to completely change the layout of the market, where we had a single entrance and a single exit. Customers are supposed to go through one way and maybe zigzag back and forth. And there's 10 feet in between each market booth, and hand wash stations and hand sanitizer stations. And now, as of last week, masks are required. They've always been required for vendors and staff. Other than that, and what's already in the board docs agenda item, I'll let you guys ask questions. It's kind of a general overview.
Carolyn,
Yeah.
what type of a turnout are you getting? Are you getting well supported?
Yeah, actually, we've been very pleased. It's easier to do the market customer count now because we have a single entrance and a single exit. And it's ranging anywhere from 350 to 420 customers.
Oh, that's
in
excellent.
between 4 and 7. So last year we counted every half hour, and we would have just our staff kind of go through the market at these specific intervals of time and count the customers. So it's a little bit different count, but this is more exact. So
yeah.
The vendors have been pleased. I'm too.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. That sounds excellent to me.
Yeah.
What about live music? Are you doing that?
Live music is not going to occur until phase 3.
Oh, that's phase 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
And customers, when they come and get the prepared food, the vendors are supposed to provide the food to them like in a take-home container so they can eat it off-site.
Oh, okay.
So
Mhm.
there's no dining on site.
Yeah. So no picnic tables.
Yeah, we push those out and far away.
Yeah.
It's definitely a big change. It's
Yes.
completely different. So, but we're making our way through it. It seems like there's something that changes all the time. We've got extra staff going on, and it's really good. The customers, they've actually been using the hand wash stations a lot, and it's
Good.
it's a lot of setup and takedown,
Yeah.
but I think it's a good thing. And
And
we get to have it, so we're super happy.
Exactly. Do you feel like the shortened hours has made a difference from going to 4 to 7 instead of 4 till 8?
I think, well, I don't know that it's necessarily made a difference. It's definitely helped for the vendors because well, you were a vendor last year, so you know that 7 to 8 hour, there's less customers. And it just, you get out of there a little bit sooner. I just think it's a lot better.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, good.
Yep. So there is one thing that we have had a challenge with, and I know the Walla Walla market has a challenge with that also, is farmers that are in the county are selling their goods at their own locations, so at their own farm stands or what have you, and they're not wanting to come to the market because of the extra time it takes to set up, or they have many different reasons, but it puts us in a little bit of a lurch because we have to have 50% of the sales from the produce and the people that sell the goods that are qualified for SNAP and SNAP Market Match. So we have to have 50% of the gross total annual sales for vendors that sell products like that qualify for that. So I don't know how else to say that.
Yeah.
So it really puts us right there where we, it's a teeter-totter of how many handcrafters and vendors do we allow in, because that lowers the percentage number. Anyway, so it's a challenge.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
No?
Hearing none, we're gonna go ahead and move on to College Avenue studies. Is that you, Mike?
Yeah, I'll just introduce this. I would ask everyone on the committee to read the report, and then we can have a deeper dialogue about this the next meeting, because this is going to be something where City Council is really going to want feedback, not just from Economic Development Commission, but there's now a Transportation Commission, because, you know, College Avenue especially, and this is mainly dealing with the south end of the street more so than the north end, although they looked at the north end. But there's literally the $1 million question, which has been on the southern extent of College Avenue. Are those turn lanes the best use of the road real estate? Because, you know, on the southern end of College Avenue, it took away a ton of street parking over there, and some of our businesses it's detrimentally affected. On the south end, and that's mainly between like 4th Street and then the top of the hill, like at 13th Street. And the fascinating part when you read the study is that you'll see a couple of things. I mean, first of all, mention at all the intersections, we need to maintain the crosswalks, and they recommended pedestrian flags, and that's a given and easy to accomplish. The couple of changes that I thought were pretty fascinating, and with the study, they took traffic counts, they modeled it, they saw what made the street function at like its optimal level. And the interesting part between the 4th and the southern periphery of the street is basically they were recommending potentially bringing back more of the parking, the traffic consultants, which again, it's a change. So really it becomes a question for College Avenue. It's really one of, what do you want it to like function as, almost, where if you want to slow down traffic and get people through, that's one thing. Or if you're trying to run it like its optimal volume, that's a whole nother thing. So I mean, really, it's one of those things where read the report, because there's a good summary in there. So that way we could have further dialogue about it, because again, whatever we do on College Avenue, it's really important. The one thing that, regardless of what mode that you do, that they recommended, and we're trying to write grant applications for, is they said that with the crosswalk in front of the post office, that needs additional protection. I think we know this because there's cars that park right up near it, and I mean, I've even seen it a couple of times of people going in a crosswalk and someone's going really quick, and there's been some very close calls over there. So they're recommended like a flashing beacon, and what that is it wouldn't be on all the time, but like if you drive around City of Kennewick, the Washington Street corridor actually has this, where like if people press on the pedestrian crossing sign, you'll see the yellow sign, but there's like little flashy lights that then start, and then people can safely walk across the street. So there's a recommendation for like a rapid flashing beacon, potentially with some curb bulb outs at that crosswalk, so that way it encourages safety. Because that since we've rebuilt the road, that is one area where it's a fascinating dichotomy because from the public works engineering side, they always tell you that, you know, don't put crosswalks mid-block because that's not how you optimally design a street and it isn't safe. But on the other hand, like, because I do have a degree in urban planning, so I mean, I could say this from a planner point of view. Um, that really you put crosswalks where your activity nodes are at, and a post office is an activity node. So it's one of those things where if you didn't have the crosswalk there, people would naturally cross at that point regardless because you have a post office right there. So that rapid flashing beacon, that's one component of it. But for the southern extent of College Avenue, about whether or not to keep the left turn lanes in with the exception of 12th Street, that is one of those things that we're going to have to grapple with. So please read the report, and then so that way we can have a more in-depth discussion about this topic because it's quite important.
Okay.
It'd really be great to have Jeff's point of view since Andy's Market's like right in the middle of the zones that would impact. And then I think Jenny is on the meeting now too. So definitely please read that from the United Country standpoint because again, really on the northern side of the corridor, what they're recommending if we went with it wouldn't impact much. Like the Rogers Bakery part of the corridor, there would be very minimal changes, but it's just the southern part of College Avenue. We really have to answer the question of what do we want the street to function as, because you can go either way, but it depends, like what do you want it as? And I think that's something as advisory boards needs to be answered. So.
Okay.
Any questions or comments or?
Okay, it doesn't sound like it. So
Okay.
we're going to move on to EServices, community development.
Yep, so this is just to give you all a heads up that this is going to be coming out and it'll facilitate doing services easier. So as you may recall, as far as keeping track of where you're at in the plan review process or building permit process, it's either been done like over the phone or email or in person, but there really wasn't like an online self-service system available. And we've always had the problem coming up with the initial investment to do that. Interesting thing is with the state pass-through COVID money, one of the things that they pay for is to facilitate like automating your system. So that way, while we're dealing with this whole COVID situation, if there's ways you can conduct activities remotely where it's not really necessitating having to do things in person, the state will help pay for that. We've been looking at multiple systems for a long time. iWork is like it's still a chunk of change, but at least in this case, it's not the city's change, it's the state's change. So we've signed a contract with them, and this will allow, once it's up and going, and we expect it'll be about a month or so of implementation, but it'll allow essentially for like some doing payments and checking on statuses of like building permits and plan reviews and things like that online, and that's something that doesn't exist right now. In fact, City of Walla Walla doesn't even have this. The only one that has like a form of it is Walla Walla County. They have like an e-Track-It platform, but that's a little clunkier. This one's more user friendly. This ended up being about like 30,000 altogether, but the state picked it up with that COVID emergency money. So we expect that it'll be up and running in a month to a month and a half. So that's good news because it'll allow business owners and developers to pay for things online and really keep track of where their projects are at within the development pipeline, and that's new. for the city. So any questions on that?
No.
Okay, I don't hear any. Sounds like a great program, though. I'm going to move on to the development tracker, Mike.
Yep, so this is our development tracker that I've done every month. As you can see, unfortunately, a lot of the projects are either on hold or canceled. Luckily, the big one that we're hoping for, the Project FM, they're still interested because as a economic sector, they're doing really good right now since they were an essential business. So as long as we get the Southwest Sewer in, we should be very competitive for that. But a lot of the stuff that is on hold right now. The thing that I'm starting to see is that I would say any gas stations or the fast food stuff it seems to be where they will consider still doing projects, but stuff where I would say it's like a chain, for instance, so either like banks that are national chains or things that are like non-essential, but they were a national chain, those are being canceled for the most part because a lot of those major national chain retailers just are not doing good. The other thing which I'm a bit bummed to report about is that hotel that we were really close to getting, the chain that was going to build that, they have contracted so much that actually the project manager I was working with from the national office actually got laid off because they were doing so bad. So unfortunately for that hotel that was going to go down like where Hop Thief is at, I think we're likely going to be back to the drawing board on that because from a hotel standpoint, it seems like the economic health of those national chains are in a pretty interesting situation at the moment, to say the least. So the hotel standpoint, we're just gonna have to pick up the pieces and try to get something, but at least Project FM still seems to be going. If you go to page 5, Human Being, you want to talk about impeccable timing. They opened up like right before the COVID outbreak occurred. So luckily they were at least able to get going. So that was a good thing. So they were operating. Project BK, the Burger King, again on hold. Rural Library District, really we're being held captive by the whole Safe Start thing because if you look in the library branch, they actually have everything in there. It's ready to open. It's just we need the legal authority to open, but it's there. Project G6 on page 7, that was another hotel. That was canceled again because the whole bottom fell out of that industry. The fast food chain restaurants, a lot of them are either on hold or canceled. Ones that we've had more mature conversations on, they're on hold, or I think they're going to come back just once things stabilize a little more. The Project Flight on page 8, Martin Airfield, there's going to be something going on there. I can honestly say I have no idea what though, because the property owner keeps has called about hypothetical conversations about oh, what if this or what if that, and he's pretty well resourced, so something will be happening out at Martin Airfield. It's going to be an interesting process, though, because as you may recall, that area is a bit of a quagmire because originally we were going to remove it out of the UGA. We end up withdrawing the application because the new landowner got all offended about it. But the fascinating part is with the comprehensive plan, that area is essentially like a no man's land where it doesn't really have like a future like land use tied to it. So whatever goes out there, they're going to have to essentially go through a process because right now the county has it as like a future industrial, but if you look at what's out there, like the airport that exists, it's actually a non-conforming use. So there's going to have to be a dialogue about what do they want to happen out there. Something I believe will happen though. If you go to page 9, Goodwill, they still plan on doing their project. It's just on pause right now because most of their stores are in their network are closed at the moment. So they're having a little bit of a liquidity issue at the moment. But they've assured us that they're still going to do it. They still own the property. College Place Public Schools are building 3 portable buildings over by Davis School. That's when you see the bulldozers out there, that's what they're doing. Because the school facilities, the permanent ones, are already like at capacity. The food cart concept at 8th and College, that's on hold as well at the moment. Going to the residential side of the coin, Homestead subdivision, that project is still going. Dones has been put through and now goes all the way up through the hill. We're just waiting on them to do a permanent stormwater solution. Page 12 has the Villages of Fort Walla Walla development. I know there's been a lot of concern about that. Is it happening? Is it going away? We remain in constant communication with Farron Group, who owns that property on Whitman Drive. They've assured us that they plan to do a groundbreaking out there the 4th quarter of this year. And if you recall, that's a 180 unit apartment complex, so it is happening. It's just a little bit of a delayed schedule. Stepper Edition off of C Street, those are going. Country Estates, that's a little bit on pause. The manager of that development, he's living in the 1 new unit. They're still waiting to construct the additional ones. So that's a moving target. Tad Sermon, who owns that U-shaped home in Spitzenberg, he still plans to tear that down and do multi-family apartments over there. So that's still on the docket for this year. Murray development over on 12th Street. Road's been improved over there. Some of the properties are being sold, just moving at a slower pace, but it's going. And then Stone Creek development, there is interest over there. It's just folks are waiting for the sewer to be built. And we've lined up loan and grant funding where I believe we will get to construction of that sewer trunk line starting late this summer. So it'll go this summer through next summer, but that sewer line will happen. We've assembled the financing for it. Hanby, up on the College Hill at Sunny, that's a new apartment building going up in that development. That is still going, luckily. And then 8th Street, the Whispering Creek subdivision over by Lions Park, the Dan Priest and Roger Maidman are doing. They have put the base of the new cul-de-sac road in. They've poured the curb in. The first house is being constructed in there. That'll be a slower development, but it still is going, which is a good thing. So that's on 8th Street heading toward Lions Park. So with that, I'll take any questions about this list.
Okay, hearing none, let's move on to Lions Park renovation letter of support.
Yep. I just need basically votes for the letter of support. So We got into a little bit of a quagmire the last time, just with rules, basically with advisory committee rules when there's a vote on something, where when this was voted on, Doug Case wasn't present, and what constituted the majority for the votes, he actually sent a counterpart, and that didn't really account for the full votes at the time, because without him there really wouldn't have been the majority to essentially vote on this. So we just need the support letter voted on again, because we've done the initial presentations before RCO. I feel we're sitting good. We're going to have final presentations, although they have been delayed. Typically, they would announce who gets what money in September because of COVID. The final presentations have been punted all the way to September, so we won't really know if we get the grant money or not until December. But as you all recall, with the Lions Park rehab, that will include separating the pond from the creek, splash pad, walking path around the perimeter of the park, nature play equipment, hiking, climbing wall, making it like the town square of a park, which really it is today, but it's just it needs more assets and it needs an updating, because a lot of the assets in that park date back from when it was created in the late 60s. So with that, I would urge vote for the letter of support.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept that letter of support for Lions Park.
I second the motion.
I got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes.
Cool.
Okay, we're going to move on to the closing items, but I'm having a computer problem and I can't scroll down to see what's under there. So whatever the closing items are.
Yeah, there is no closing items. It's just that the next meeting will be basically the first Monday of next month, and that is really that. And until the governor either issues new guidance or we move to phase 3, it'll likely continue to be online until we either move to the 2.9 or move somewhere. So it's a moving target.
Well, hopefully we can meet in person. If not, we'll make this work.
Yeah, exactly.
Any final comments?
No, that's all I have. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, have a good evening.
Yeah, you too.
Thanks, you
evening.
too.
Thanks, Mike and Carolyn.
Yeah.
Bye.
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 Bye.